Hi, guys. Welcome to the Art of Healing podcast. I'm your host, Pearls.
And I'm Paris.
And today we're going to be talking about trauma in friendships. And this is part 2.
Yeah, so if you missed the first part, definitely recommend listening to that one first. That one's more about the trauma that you've been through and how it shapes the relationships and the friendships that you get into. This one's more on the other side of that, of what your relationships look like after you've gone through the trauma and you start healing. And this is the part that often most people miss or that isn't talked about much because we rarely find the people to talk it to about with it person with. So I think just what I want to start on saying is like when it comes to the trauma that you're healing from, you often feel alienated because a lot of the environments and the friendships that you were currently in were created off of the back of the conditioning and the programming and the nervous system that was designed to cope with
and support those
and support
situations.
the
Yeah.
situations that you're in. So to step out of that is almost to let go of the life that you have. Is to kind of, to put it politely, put a big fu to sometimes your family, to your friends, to your work colleagues, to your job, to your life. Like literally everything that you know to be normal can go out the window. And that doesn't mean that this is the case that you have to do these things to heal, but oftentimes it looks that way. And you have to kind of just accept that you're going to be taking a lone wolf path for quite a bit, right?
Yeah, I think the thing is, I don't think anyone expects it to be lonely or it to be all of a sudden you don't relate to like your friends
Mm.
or the people around you. But sometimes it does happen, or a lot of the
Yeah.
times it does happen because
Mm.
that's sadly a lot of the time that's part of the healing journey. Unless everyone
Yeah.
around you is on the same journey, it's actually really difficult to connect with people to like
Mm.
help them understand what you're going through, and also to try sometimes as well when you're healing and you're trying to have better patterns, you're trying to have better behaviors, you're trying to put yourself in a better space. It's difficult to do that if the people around you are
Yeah.
consistently behaving in the old ways, old patterns, or
Yeah.
in ways that don't really serve where you're going and how you want to present yourself and how you
Hmm.
want to grow. So it does make it quite difficult.
And it's really hard to make that change when you've got like these opposing forces against you. Like from my own experience, when I started going on my healing journey, one of the decisions I made was, right, I'm going to stop drinking. It was a process to get there, but something that made it a lot harder was the fact that my friends still drank and they wasn't on this healing journey with me. If they were still drinking, but also like, hey, like we're going to stop and we're on this healing thing too, probably, okay, we're still drinking, but we've still got this united goal and this can bring us together as friends to have this common, thing to go after. But it wasn't that. It was more of like I almost didn't want to be around them because the temptation was there, or it was like if I had the chance to see them, alcohol was involved, and that made it a lot harder for me to say no. Rather than put myself in those situations, it's a lot easier to just not.
Mm.
And so, therefore, I didn't fall out with my friends. I love them to bits, but I had to distance myself from them because for me, it wasn't healing to put myself in those environments with them whilst they're still doing the behaviors that I'm trying to stop. And
Mm.
this goes for a lot of things. It doesn't just, equate to drinking or taking drugs. It can be like the way you eat or like going to the gym, these things. Like if your friends aren't interested in a healthy lifestyle, let's call it, and they're all like, proactively playing video games and not really taking control over their life and not really like, trying to develop themselves for the better, this sucks you in. And this, what do they say? You are the average of your
Five,
five friends.
yeah.
Or I go as far to say as you're the average of the five people you hang around with the most. It's not necessarily just your friends; it can be your family as well. But it is so true. The people that you are around will shape the person that you are. It's just how it goes.
Mm.
So for me, that looked like having to distance myself from my friends. It meant having to say no to them a lot when deep down I did want to say yes because they're my friends still. I miss them. We hadn't fallen out. I still did want to hang out with them, but they wasn't in a position where I could be like, hey, can't we do something that doesn't involve alcohol, because I'm going through this stuff that I want to heal and that would be more beneficial for me. So that just wasn't how it rolled. So I had to just be like, okay, cool, I see that we're going down different paths at the moment and I'm gonna have to take myself out of the situation. But of course, what that meant for me was not having any friends, or at least any
Mm.
friends that aligned with me anymore. Any friends
Yeah.
that were interested in the stuff that I was interested in that moment, which, to be honest, was dealing with my anxiety, getting out of the depressive, state that I was in, and taking control of my life again.
Mm.
There's things that led me to that position in the first place was the life that I was living. So in order to change, I had to completely change the life that I was, that I was in. But unfortunately, that meant my friends too. Sorry, friends, if you listen to this, we are still friends.
For me, it wasn't really like that I had to change the activities that I was doing. But what I did realize on my journey was that when I started healing and when I started realizing, hang on a second, I want to grow, I want to be better, I want to be this way, and there was less drama in my life, I realized I had a lot less friends.
Yeah, I feel that.
And I realized that all of a sudden it was like, oh, my friend's not ringing me up to see like what latest drama's going on, or what problem have I got now, or what situation has happened, or what the thing, the latest problem is, because that was, I was in a situation or multiple situations that were like full of drama, full of problems. There was always something going on. So there would always be someone on the end of the phone to me asking me what's going on, fill me in, etc. But I realized that when things started going in a different direction for me, when I started to actually cut all these people out of my life, that the friends that I had were not that interested in like hearing about the great things that were happening in my life, or hearing about like how I was doing a lot better, or how I was having fun, or I was enjoying this, or I was doing that. It was actually all of a sudden, it was like, okay, cool. Well, so it was like, oh, okay, you were only really attached to the version of me that was like going
Suffering.
Yeah, but the version of me that's healing and is like starting to thrive and is actually starting to do well and is starting to make positive changes in my life, all of a sudden that version of me doesn't appeal to you.
Yeah.
And it's sad to realize that like actually some people only want to be your friend or hang around with you, I guess, because maybe to some extent my drama and the situations and things happening in my life maybe made them feel a bit better about theirs.
No,
as horrible it is to say that, but
that's the reality.
But that's what it felt like. It was like, oh well, where are all my friends? Like, and it wasn't just like, it was like one friend. It was like almost all of my friends all of a sudden were not my friends. And it was like, hey, hang on a second, where did you all go? But the realization of that is like, oh, the reason I don't really have any friends anymore is because they were like never really my friends.
Yeah. Friends by circumstance, friends because of X, Y, and Z, friends because of your trauma.
Yeah.
Friends because of what you were allowing. Because there's a thin line between, somebody listening to your problems and supporting you and then feeding off of that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it's like, how do you tell, or how do you differentiate from a friend that is only listening because they like the drama and they want to hear how bad your life is because it makes them feel better, and the friends that are actually listening to you because they care and they want to support you through the tough stuff that you're going through, because friends should do those things.
Yeah, because something that I realized was that when I look back, and I think even at the time when I started to come out of that group and those friends and I started to look back at certain situations, I realized like actually a lot of the time that if I say, for example, started something new, like I started a clothing brand, for example, and one of my friends would like come over to see how it was doing, and then when I would tell her it was doing well, she would be disappointed, but like visibly. And I would, we were talking in the previous episode, it's like you give people the benefit of the doubt, and it's like da, da, da. But like now that I know what I know and I understand what I understand, and I look back to that moment, there was no reason for me to give her the benefit of the doubt. She just didn't want to hear that it was going well. Right. She was one of the friends that liked hearing about the things that are going on in my life, but also liked telling other people about the problems that were happening in my life. And the other thing that I realized was that even some of the friends that were like really encouraging me to get out of some of the situations that I was in, when I did it and I was doing it, they were annoyed about it, if that makes sense. They were annoyed about like, and I would get like, I don't know what the words are, but I would kind of get like taunted a little bit for like having new friends or like trying new things and being in new places. And it's like, but weren't you encouraging me to do this? And now that I'm doing this, you're not happy about it?
It's an interesting dynamic, because there are certain people, and unfortunately it's the vast majority of people, are programmed in a way where they actually don't want to see you do better than them. Because for in your example, you doing better than them, right? Air quotes. To them, it's reflecting on what they're not doing or what they're not living up to. That's why like people that you grew up with in school will follow you and watch everything you do on Facebook.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And never ever talk to you still, but they will be checking in. You won't know it because obviously they don't commute, but there's people, trust me, the listeners as well, there's people that you went to school with that are checking up on your life on a daily basis. They're not doing it because they're interested. They're doing it because they're trying to see if you're doing better than them.
I had a friend who did this.
I'm telling you.
And he would specifically tell me that he followed all his friends from high school.
There you go.
And also from sixth form. just to consistently check on if they were doing better than
There you
him.
go.
And he found joy in hearing if someone got like divorced
Yeah.
or something bad
Yeah.
happened to them. And now he would like relish in it. And I'd be
Mhm.
like, are you okay? That's not a nice thing to
Yeah.
enjoy.
Because people are so insecure and they've got their own shit going on that they have to look for someone else's pain, someone else's trauma, someone else's misfortune to make themselves feel better. It's almost like they're looking for excuses to put themselves on a pedestal to other people. And this is where like the whole competition versus cooperation comes from. A lot of people pit themselves against other people when the reality is the only competition in this world is you against you.
Facts.
And these are the type of friends when you start healing that you find. It's the people that look at life as a game that they're playing against themselves, not a game against other people. Because like how do we meet or how do we operate? We help each other, we support each other, we only want the best for each other, we're only always trying to lift each other up. I never think, oh my God, you're doing better than me, or oh, she did that really well, I wish I could do that. I think if anything, when you do something better than I do it, it inspires me to be better.
Facts.
And
Yeah,
I think,
exactly.
wow,
Same.
I need to step up now. I want to do better.
Yeah, we inspire each other and we support
Yeah.
each other. It's not a competition.
Yeah. And that's coming from a healthy, healed place, from ourselves, but also in the relationship we have. But it's only because of the healing that we've done and because of, I guess how we are as people that is able to happen in the first place. But on the flip side, the traumatized people, the people that are conditioned, that do have that, it's a scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
There's lack, there's not enough of. I'm in competition with everyone else. And, I don't blame them. From day dot when we're born, we're taught that everything's a competition. When we get graded at school, competition. When we leave to get jobs, competition. It's constantly, I need to be better than you to get ahead. The reality is that's a losing game. If you're playing the game to beat other people, you will always lose. I think there's a famous picture of Michael Phelps, the swimmer, and he's swimming one of his races, obviously winning it. And the guy next to him actually was ahead of him at one point. But guess what he did and how
Looked
he
at
lost?
him.
He lifted his head up in the water, out of the water, and looked at him. And in that split second, Michael Phelps got ahead of him and won. And it's like, bro,
God.
you were so concentrated on beating this guy that you weren't focused on the job at hand, which was you swimming, and that's why you lost. And this is how, and this is people were playing.
That's life.
People are playing the game of life in exactly the same way. They're concentrating too much on other people and what they're doing, rather than focusing on themselves. Because from a nervous system and trauma perspective, focusing on themselves means addressing their shit. It means addressing the emotions that they don't want to feel. It means fixing the life that they're not happy with. But that's too much for them. Let me focus on other people's lives and put all my energy into that so I can feel better.
Yeah.
Because they're just trying to self-soothe, but in the wrong way, unfortunately. But when you start healing, you start almost repelling these people.
Yeah.
Because when you say like your friends, for example, when you started on your journey, you started sorting your life out and they all of a sudden didn't like it. I imagine they just started dropping off, did they?
Yeah, they just started dropping off. And it was like really noticeable. I was just like, oh, I normally so-and-so calls me or will message me or will be like, hey, do you want to meet up? And but as soon as things started going well and I was feeling a lot better as well, and just also better in myself because I was like happier. I was like making more jokes. I was being more myself. And I realized that like, hey, I'm actually in a much better version of myself and I'm getting better each day. But like, where is everybody? Like, why is nobody calling me? Why has no one's messaged me? And even when I would message people or call people, it would be really hard to get like much of a response back. And it was kind of like it felt very one-sided. So I kind of like let it go myself in the end. But something else that I've realized is like, as I've grown on my healing journey, this has been like years in the making, is that more and more friends drop off because each time, let's think of it as like, I'm shedding my skin, let's say, like a version of me. Each time I grow as a person or I, develop even further, I realize like someone else drops off. Like recently I had a friend who I've been really, really good friends with for years and we've never had any issues. We've never fallen out. But I think a lot of the things that I'm doing in my life are making her feel a certain way about the things that she's doing in her life because she wants deep down, I think, the same things that I want, but isn't doing it.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because some of the stuff we were going to do together.
Right, gotcha.
And she didn't, but I've gone and pursued things that I want to pursue. And yeah, just one day she just never messaged me back. And I've not spoken to her in like months.
A while.
in months. But there was no reason for, and if I look back, there was little signs of like little remarks or little things that were said or done, which I again gave the benefit of the doubt because I was like, I have no reason to think anything negative of like, and maybe you're just in a funny mood today or whatever. But I look back now and I realize, like, oh, actually, the reason that you don't speak to me anymore is because you do not feel comfortable with the way things are going in my life and like how
Mm.
things are going, I guess, well.
Yeah.
And it's triggering you because I know that deep down you want to do some of these things, but you haven't found like the strength or the
Mm.
place in your life to be able to do it
Yeah.
for whatever reason. So I think as well, like, it's sad because it's like, oh, the how I guess this is just a part of the journey. You always like lose
It's a
people
massive
along the
part.
way, and a lot
Yeah.
of the time it's like nothing's happened. You've not fallen out with these people. They're just not your people anymore. And
Hmm.
I think, the more you grow, the more you will find people that are like you,
Yeah.
and the more that people align with like what you're doing and where you're going and like the things that you want in life. So
Hmm.
yeah, that's something. That's something that I've noticed, that even over the years, that like, hey, slowly, even like some of the really good people that like I thought I would have friends forever, like actually
Yeah.
haven't been.
It's a deep one, but the only thing that lasts forever is love. Whenever I meet someone and they're still friends with the people that they grew up with, let's say, I think two things. I either think, good for you. It means that you found people that you can grow with and you have for the rest of your life, or so far as you've lived. Or I think, damn, you haven't changed much. Because the reality is, if you are growing as a person, people will fall off. And that's
Mm,
where like non-attachment comes in. We think that to be non-attached to things means I don't care about anything. This is like the spiritual woo-woo taking it over the top, where like nothing matters to me. I don't need anything in life. I don't like material. That's all BS. Non-attachment just means don't hold on to things and accept that, like life, nothing but love lasts forever, because
mm,
it doesn't. When you let go of that, then you let go of the need of like, I need to stay friends with these people. I need to stay in this job. I need to stay this way forever, because these things are comfort. It makes you feel safe. But in that comfort and that safety, it's keeping you small. And yeah, we go through cycles in life, but one of those cycles in what you're going through, there should be moments of growth. If there isn't, then you're not living.
yeah.
You're just staying the same. And to be honest, to me, that's dying.
Yeah, I read something actually years and years ago. It was like a quote of something, and it basically said something along the lines of, if you are the same person at the start of the decade
Mm,
as you are at the end of the decade, then you have just wasted a decade.
mm,
And I think that's so true. I think
yeah.
if you look back and 10 years ago you were exactly the same, then what have you done in 10 years?
Just gone through the motions of surviving, I guess, or just being there.
Yeah.
But some people live that way. And this is what I'm saying. Like, define dying not as the end of your life, but as living a life that's repetitive and the same, and you're not
Living the
growing.
same day over and over. That
Yeah.
is, for me, that is like my worst nightmare, living the
Hmm.
same day over and over again.
Hmm.
Like that, I've not seen the movie Groundhog Day, but it's about the same day again and
Yeah.
again. But that seems like the worst thing ever. Like
Hmm.
you're stuck in the Dave channel.
Honestly. Stuck in the Dave channel, just living it day by day and hating on everyone else that is changing, because deep down that's what you want, but you haven't got the courage to step out of your comfort zone and go after your things. But if you actually looked at yourself in the mirror, healed what you needed to heal, got over the things that you're holding on to, and started addressing your pain, you will start moving towards the things that are going to bring you joy. You will start moving towards the things that are going to bring the lifestyle that you envy in other people, because envy and jealousy, we label them negative emotions, but all they show you is what you really want. But
Yes.
most of the time we just get stuck in the green-eyed monster, they call it, of like, oh, I wish I had that and I want. No, don't look at it in that way. Look at it in like, oh, my body is showing me what I want. How can I get this?
Yeah.
But not from a place of ego of like, I need to have what you have so I can be better than you. From a place of, oh, cool, I really like the way you speak. I would like to analyze the way you speak and use that as inspiration to change the way I speak, for example.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? But again, this comes back into people who are stuck in their ego, who haven't healed enough to realize that they're even thinking this way, and it's just about competition and beating the other person.
Mm.
And that inevitably keeps them in the cycle of feeling their way, no matter what they get, no matter how much they achieve, no matter how much money they earn, no matter what title they have at work, they won't be happy,
Mm.
because that's never ending. But Marnie put it, if money makes you rich and chasing numbers lasts forever. Paraphrasing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
So that's what it's like when you're looking at your friends around you on your healing journey. What do you do, or what should you look for when you are trying to make new friends whilst on your healing journey? Because I feel like this is something.
it's tough, because you have two conflicting forces within you at this point. You have the old you that is still there, and then you have the new you that's being born, right? And the process of getting to the new you is shedding the old you. But when you're seeking friendships, you're seeking environments that are conducive of your healing, you know, the new version of you, the old version, the programming, the conditioning still is seeking out what it already knows. So you have this conflict of like, am I seeing good in this person? Or is it the old me just letting them back in again?
Yeah.
And that's what you have to be aware of. I think something that I used to really trip up on was actually assuming that people, and this goes back to the people pleasing and the kind of like not telling people to F off and seeing seeing the best in them, was like, if they showed me something that I believed or we like gelled with on a certain moral or value, I would hold them to that regard and assume that they're good people and they must be like me because we agreed on this one thing, or that maybe was quite big, but without going deeper into finding out like, oh, how do they treat their friends? What do they believe about this? How do they act around the waiter or something like that? And
How do they behave when they're upset?
yeah, how do they behave when they're upset? That's a big one. Because anyone, can be nice to you when they're feeling good, but how do they behave when they're upset? How do they behave when they're angry?
When things are going
how do they
wrong.
behave when they're challenged with something, or something hasn't gone their way? These are things to look out for. But yeah, so I would still be finding myself getting into these friendships with people that were not on my level, because I would let them in the door through this one thing that we gelled on. And then once they were in the door, I'm reliving the same thing all over again. So this is like a real-time example of the healing version of me, the new version, being like, oh, I'll open the door because this is a part of me healed. But then the old version being attracted to all the other stuff that was going on and ignoring the red flags, ignoring the way they were treating me, the way they were speaking, the way they were acting, the way that they would do like little remarks to put me down and all these things that were just weird. I just allowed it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I think when we're healing, when we're like, oh, cool, like, let me go find my tribe, let me go find my new people, it's really exciting. And part of you really wants to just like jump 2 feet into it and start being really open and honest with loads of people. And a lot of times you'll find that you will be sharing stuff with these people that you probably haven't shared with other people as quickly before, and you really connect. But this is actually, I would say, an amber flag, because that's oversharing. And if you're being that open to someone that you don't really know or trust, you're kind of exercising, to be honest, poor boundaries. I used to do it, and because you don't know what that person's going to do with that information.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is, let's say, for example, narcissists will use that information against you. If you tell someone your deepest secrets and your weaknesses, the right person will listen. The wrong person will use it against you.
Mm.
And when you're unhealed, you are going to attract the people that are unfortunately going to use it against you.
And your nervous system will think, hey, these people are normal. I recognize you.
I know
Hey,
you.
buddy.
Cousin, is that
Where you been?
Yeah. And there'll be a moment in time where everything's happy, everything's hunky-dory, you feel like you've met this person and you're really connecting with him and you guys are friends, and all of a sudden it just goes sour. And it's only once you're out of it and you're not friends with them anymore and you start backtracking, do you realize, hey,
There were so many signs.
there were so many signs. How did I not see them? Well, the reason you didn't see them is because you were still attached to the old version of you that saw the good in them, using me as the example, and gave them the benefit of the doubt, where the healed version of you wasn't there enough to realize and recognize that, hey, this is a boundary that's being overstepped.
Yeah. Because we had a situation a while back where after, if you listen to the previous episode, we talked about, obviously we had a group of friends, and then in this episode what happened is, after that we were a little bit traumatized about making friends. Quite traumatized. We really didn't put ourselves out there for a very long time because we were like really cautious and reluctant to, because there'd been other things that had happened between that group of friends and some existing friends that we had, and we kind of kept little things kept happening, which kept giving us like a signal to like, hey, just keep yourselves to yourselves, like it's not safe out there, which wasn't the truth, but that's how it felt for us at the time. It's like, I don't want to mingle with anyone, so we didn't for a while. But then we started to realize, hey, actually, we can't be this way. We have to start opening ourselves up to people, start putting ourselves out there, start trusting people, and start like opening up the door to meet new people. So we did. And then something else happened where we put our trust in someone, and there was no reason to not trust this person, to be completely honest. There wasn't, was there?
I don't know who to give like some story inkling. I don't know who you're talking about. Oh, okay, yeah.
There was no reason for us to not like trust this person.
Yeah, no, there wasn't.
There wasn't. And then this person betrayed our trust. Could argue stole from us.
Did steal from us.
Did steal from us. And then we went back into the, hey, that wasn't great. We're probably not going to do that again.
Yeah.
Probably not going to do that again. And then we kind of dealt with that for a little while. But we put on our big boy pants and we went back out there. We were like, no, come on, we can go again. And we learned from the first situation. We learned from the previous situation. And we thought, cool. Like, we assessed it. We sat down and had conversations about this. And we're like, what did we do wrong? How did we get this wrong? How did this happen? How did we end up in this situation? Because, like, how are we attracting these people still in our lives when we're actively healing? We're actively working on X, Y, and Z. So, like, why does this keep happening to us? And then we put on our big boy pants and we went back out again. And then we met some more friends and we thought, hey, and they were in an environment where it was like all about healing and all about love and all about great things.
Everyone was on self-improvement and doing better and helping humanity. The whole, the whole spiel.
All the good stuff. So again, we're in a nice environment with nice people, all on the same vibe, on the same journey, thinking, cool, we're going to meet some really great people here. And we did. We met loads of great people. And we met some people that we became friends with, got on really, really well with. But later on again, they betrayed our trust and a lot happened. And we looked back at that situation and we thought, hey, hang on a second. How did we end up here? How did this happen again? And what was it? It was, we wanted to see the good in people and we ignored the signs.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it was one major sign that we ignored, which was a small thing, but reality,
it turned into a big thing.
So for example, when someone is upset, how do they respond in that situation? We ignored the behavior at the time, gave the benefit of the doubt because everything else seemed really great. But later on, that behavior was the behavior that bit us in the backside.
Yeah.
And had us in a situation where we were like, we're really sorry. And somehow, you know how it gets with narcissists sometimes, they get you to think that you're the one who's done something wrong when you haven't. And you're apologizing for absolutely doing nothing wrong.
You're apologizing for their bad behavior.
Which
Uno reverso. I got you.
Uno reverso. That's just reminded me. That's actually really funny because we were going to confront this person about this behavior and about X, Y, Z, and then we ended up having a conversation with this person, and this person literally Uno reversed us and put everything else on us, and we were just like, "What just happened?" We didn't even get a chance or space to speak about this.
It's classic narcissistic behavior, though. What they'll do, especially when they know that they're figured out or they know that the jig is up, is that they will take everything that they know that you're going to say to them, all the behaviors, all the actions that they've done, and they will somehow flip it on you as if you're the person that did it. So then it absolves them of everything. They can feel better, and they leave you holding the bag of like, hey, wait a minute, like this is what you did. And then you start questioning your sanity. Am I the crazy one? Like, what is going on here? Because it's ridiculous. Imagine I just pushed over this pot now. There's a flower pot on our table for people that are just listening. And I blamed you for it and said you did it before you got a chance to tell me that why did I do that? That's what narcissists do.
Yeah. Like in this situation, like the key takeaway, like we could maybe another time we'll go into like the details of what happened because it's a very long scenario situation. But the key takeaway was when we ended that conversation, we came off that call, and I remember being really infuriated because I was like, wait, why did I just apologize? Why did I just apologize for something that I didn't do? Something that didn't happen? Something that didn't exist? But that's how sometimes you end up in these situations and you're like, and I remember, I think the thing that I was most upset about after that scenario wasn't even that we'd let this person into our lives, was actually the fact that I'd apologized for something that I didn't do or that didn't happen. And it's like, wait, I was just being open and honest in a respectful manner, and somehow I'm the bad guy. And it was a funny thing to look back on. And I think even now, sometimes I look back and I think, I'm not ever going to do that again. I'm not ever going to be in a situation where if I'm speaking my truth, I have to apologize for it, because we shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to. If someone makes you feel bad about telling them the truth or speaking your truth, say again?
I said red flag.
Red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag. Like we said in the previous one, if they make you feel bad about putting down a boundary, red flag. In this one, if they make you feel bad about speaking your truth and just being open and honest in a respectful manner, red flag. Red flag, red flag, red flag.
Like, I think it's our belief that in order to foster a healthy relationship, you need to be around people that are willing and able to hear your honest opinion, your thoughts and feelings. If they cannot be received well, I'm sorry, they're not people I want to be friends with, because that's how I would like them to come to me and tell me if I've upset them, if I've made them happy, whatever it is. Tell me what you think and feel. I will never put it against you, hold it against you, and I would like to do the same.
In fact, I'm sure we thank them for their honesty, but we were not thanked for our honesty.
Yeah, which was also interesting, because when we told them this, they were like, yeah, we appreciate that you guys are the same too. But then when it was our chance to be like, hey, you guys, this is what you've done, they didn't want to know. But yeah, and I think this is so important when it comes to healing the trauma and finding your friends, is that I guess what we're kind of alluding to is that you're not going to be perfect at it. It took us 3 kind of different major scenarios to get to the point where we are now, where I think we're a year and a half away from any sort of drama like that, any sort of people in our lives, because that last one was the final straw, and that was the final, hey, what
did we do wrong?
Because the thing that we did wrong, and it literally was, there was a red flag right at the beginning that we spoke about, but we kind of went, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
That wasn't it.
Yeah, there was a major red flag, and we were just like, oh, it should be okay. And the thing was, the reason we knew it was a red flag, and this is really down to us and our, like, I don't know, delusion, if delusion's the right word, but basically we discussed the red flag, about it being a red flag, and how we need to accommodate our behavior to support this red flag.
Yeah.
And okay, we didn't call it a red flag at the time, we were just discussing the behavior, but we were discussing the behavior, like, hey, next time we hang out with this person, you just got to be a bit more mindful of, like, making this kind of joke or saying this, because we don't want to upset this person and then get ignored or get, like, not bullied, but, like, isolated for making a joke.
Well, no, it was bullying, because essentially what happened for you, the listener, is this person was not really humor that either of us really mess with, to be honest. But if someone gives it, I'll give it back, because banter and all that. But this person, one of his main jokes was to, like, make fun of you and take the piss out of you, which is completely fine. Like, if someone does that, like, them jokes in moderation and welcome, they're funny, whatever.
Especially if they're good.
But this guy, literally, that was half of his humor, right? And then the interesting thing was, if you made a joke about him, he got upset about it. So Pearls did just that, and he decided to then ignore her
for the rest
blatantly. Like, we all stood there, and he was now ignoring her. He even went as far as turning his body
away from me. Anytime I spoke, would pretend I didn't speak. Anytime I, like, said even directly to him, he would act like I haven't spoken and, like, ignore me and talk to somebody else and basically make me feel like I wasn't part of the group or part of the conversation. So what we did after that is, the next time that we were going to see these people, we were like, okay, next time we just got to be a bit more mindful of, like,
don't make any jokes.
Don't make those kind of jokes.
He's obviously really sensitive.
Yeah, and that's the word that we use. But actually, no, he's obviously a I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I tell her how I see it.
I call it how I see it, but no. But
sorry, YouTube.
The red flag is this. Okay, cool. If you can make fun of other people and it's a joke, cool, in moderation, that's fine. But if you can't take what you're dishing out, and you're going to get defensive, sensitive to the point where you're going to then ignore the person, then why are you giving out? Why are you giving those jokes? You're obviously doing it to put other people down, not because it's a joke.
Yeah.
To what? Make yourself feel better. Put yourself on a pedestal. Diminish them. Classic narcissistic behavior.
Yeah, and the thing was, actually, now that we look back, he didn't actually just do it to us.
No, he did it to everyone.
He did it to everyone, and he did it. He did it to the first person that we were talking about, and the first person got really upset, and they kind of fell out. And that should have also been assigned to us as, like, oh, okay, someone else did also not like that behavior, and this is behavior that's not cool. But again, we wanted to see the best in this person, and we thought, hey, you're in a nice environment, we connect with you on so many levels, but really, no.
Yeah. But it was, and since then, that was the final straw, and we've learned a lot. But I guess the message is, you're not going to be perfect when you're healing and trying to find new friends, and expect there. I wouldn't say this is going to happen to everyone, but expect there to be some inklings into the past that you've experienced. And the trick is not to try and avoid everyone so that this doesn't happen. Is to catch it as soon as possible, and have the awareness to cut them off as soon as possible, and not get hung up on the fact that it's happened again, but more so be focused on, next time this happens, next time I come across this person, next time I feel this way, because I think that's one of the major things. It's a feeling. there's the force talks you out of the feeling.
Yeah.
Where if we listened to our feeling in every one of those scenarios, we would have cut them off. But we started making excuses for them. We started giving them the benefit. That doesn't happen as a feeling. That happens in your mind.
Yeah.
Because your mind's been conditioned and programmed to do that for whatever reason. But less mind, more feeling. And this is where the body-based nervous system work comes into play. And you will be guided to not go into these situations again. But don't be hard on yourself and don't try and be perfect with it. Again, it's just about being better than last time.
Yeah.
And from the 3 scenarios that we're referring to, the gaps in between the time we spent with these people to cutting them out was shorter
Got short every time. Yeah.
because every time we looked at it from a perspective of, okay, how can we do better? What did we do wrong? How can we improve? And now we're at the point now where we're a year and a half in. None of these mother truckers have tried to mess up with our lives.
And
go on.
so, something I will say as well is that, like, you know, on the healing journey, yes, you are going to meet people who are healing, and there are going to be people that make mistakes, and there are going to be people that exhibit certain behaviors that potentially don't gel with you. But it's not always a case of, hey, you got to cut these people out immediately, because sometimes if these people have self-awareness, because there's things that we still do wrong. Do you know what I mean? There's things that we're still working on and improving on, but we have awareness. We're self-aware, and we're openly and actively trying to be better. And I think that's the difference. The difference between all the people that we met, they did not have any self-awareness, and they were not open and willing to understand or hear where you were coming from, or even try to grow in that way. Whereas there are people out there who will probably have like amber flags and you know, things that potentially don't sit well with you, but assess the situation evenly, because if people are open and willing and have self-awareness, then I think it's slightly different. It's not a case of I'm going to cut you off immediately.
No, definitely.
It's a case of, okay, you know, you're in the middle section, you're in amber at the minute, and let's see how this goes, because it can go either way. You know, amber flags can turn into green flags, or they can go red, and it sometimes is just about seeing and assessing the person and saying like, hey, actually, is this as bad as I think, or is it actually, this is something you're working on and you're getting better at it. So I think, you know, it's a combination of things.
Being, I guess, a bit more cautious with who you're friends with and who you spend your time and energy with isn't about throwing your walls up so no one can get over them.
Because that's a mistake we made.
Yeah, that's basically keeping you safe, comfort zone. I'm going to protect myself, which is understandable why we go there, but that's not where the growth happens. If you put a wall up, you're not going to get anywhere. You have to have your guard up, but your walls down, and that's the difference. And whenever these people do try to, let's keep in the theme of walls, guards, attack you, whenever they do get through the armor, that's just showing you a little place where you had a little hole in your armor that you now get to fill. And next time they won't get through at that point. There might be another place they get through, but you repair that too. And you keep going until your armor is so strong that it doesn't matter. They bounce off of you.
Yeah, you get XP points every time like you interact with one of these people. You got to think of it like a little bit like a game.
Yeah, 100%.
It's like, hey, I beat this boss last time. I can do it again, and I beat you faster this time.
Yeah, it's like once you beat the boss and you know its weakness, the boss is not a boss anymore. It's like it's a grunt. And then there's another boss, and then you keep going until you've got so much XP points that the bosses, you know, they're all the same once you get to a certain point. They all work the same way. They all think the same way. You just feel the energy. You understand, because it is a feeling. When you know the saying, oh, I just got a bad vibe from them. That bad vibe that you're picking up is a feeling. Your body knows before the mind is. When you were in the fetus, your nervous system was created before your mind was. Your nervous system was already taking information before the brain. So the brain isn't as powerful as the nervous system. Yes, we think the brain is where our thoughts are, but the nervous system can pick up on stuff that we cannot comprehend in the mind. One of those things is the air quotes bad vibe. Listen to it more. It's
Your
like
gut feeling is true.
Yeah, so we had someone in our apartment block who Pearls actually used to work with, and we only realized after a few times of meeting them, but we never really spoke. We kind of just crossed paths with them. And
oh my gosh, yes, I just realized who you were talking about.
yeah. And it was just like a casual hi thing. Anyway, I went to, I think, walk Nisa one morning, and I bumped into this guy, and we had a little chat, and I was like, oh, you're so-and-so. Like, I think my girlfriend knows you, rah, rah, rah. And that was the end of it. It was a nice conversation, nothing really more than that. But I walked away thinking, oh, like, interesting, cool guy. But anyways, as I'm now leaving our apartment to go outside, go to the shops, I'm feeling anxious that I might bump into this person for whatever. And I don't feel that way about people. Like, I'm very, open and willing to meet people. I'm not like antisocial or anything like that. But I would feel anxious. I would even go as far to go a different way. So I would avoid the stairs that I think that he'd be walking down, so we didn't cross paths. And I said to Pels, I was like, I'm feeling anxious about this thing and I don't know why. Rah, rah, rah. Anyway, very long story short, without alluding to what happened, someone messaged us warning us about this guy because he basically was very abusive to her. And
Like, for context, she figured out where we lived
Yeah.
and realized we lived in the same building as him from looking at our social media posts.
yeah.
I was like, hey, if you live here, then you
But by any chance, do you know this person? Because if you do, just a heads up, you should stay away from him because this is what he did to me and he might do it to you. So we were kind of like,
Oh.
wow, thanks for that information. And then it clicked and I was like, oh my God, I've been feeling anxious for the last couple of weeks because my body's telling me that this person was off. Despite the meeting that we had, it was a normal conversation. He was cool. He seemed very, polite, and we just had like a guy chat, whatever. Then I started feeling into this feeling and playing the conversation back in my head. And there were certain weird behaviors that he did. Like when we were speaking, after I said bye to him, he smirked and walked off, which I've seen that smirk before. This is a smirk of smirkers. If you know the smirk, hashtag smirk. But yeah, it's a common narcissistic trait. They smirk. And I was just other little odd things that in his facial expression, and then obviously in that interaction, now I can feel how I actually felt. I'm like, my body was warning me.
And also, for some additional background story, a couple of weeks later, obviously Paris has been avoiding this person. Not avoiding this person, but trying his best not to bump into this person. This person knocks on our front door. How he knew what door we lived at or what number we lived at, and just made up the most randomest excuse to knock on the door. What was it?
Yeah, he asked for a wine bottle opener
or something.
But like, bear in mind, he's not our neighbor. He lives like 10 doors away from us. So
And-
you're telling me that he knocked on the 10 doors prior to get to us to knock and ask for that. And he lives in a different hallway. So you didn't
yeah.
knock in your hallway before you came to our hallway, which is at the end, by the way, of the hallway.
Yeah, so that was a whole weird situation as well, and that was all very weird vibes.
Yeah.
But I feel like that just adds to the story a little bit. It's like, hey, he was probably thinking, where the heck is he?
Mhm.
Where's my next victim?
but the point is when it comes to healing and when it comes to nervous system regulation and bringing that emotional awareness, is your body will always tell you before the mind does. So after we got that information, it clicked that, I'm feeling anxious. I'm avoiding this person. I couldn't figure it out because I was trying to think about it. And to me, I was just, I don't know what I'm going to say to him next time I speak or something. But then when I got into the feeling and I had the information, it was like, that's why I feel this way. So always listen to your feelings when you're meeting people. Always, always. Even if the littlest, smallest thing feels off, listen to that. It might be nothing, but it's going to do you a whole load of benefit to listen and find out that it's nothing, rather than to ignore it and find out through experience.
And honestly, in the majority of situations, if you're feeling a certain way about someone, it's probably 100% going to be exactly what you feel and think it is, because there are, I imagine, a lot less scenarios where you think something or feel something about a certain person and then it's the complete opposite. It's very rare that happens, at least in our experience. Every time we've had that little feeling or that little niggling, like, what is that? It's turned out to be the thing that we thought it was.
I cannot give you one example of where that feeling's been wrong, if I actually am honest with myself.
Mm-hmm. Same.
Like, I've never felt, that was off, and then it turns out they were really nice people. So take that with a pinch of salt. I don't believe that that's the case every time, but I would say that there's a high hit rate. There's a very high hit rate. Listen to your feelings before you start thinking. And if ever you're giving people a story or an excuse or giving them the benefit of the doubt, catch that, because that's probably your old programming, just looking for the best in them, looking for it's almost like you're looking for a way to not feel. But yeah, I hope this podcast has helped you tremendously. I think the main takeaways is listen to your feelings, be patient with yourself and be kind with yourself, because you more than likely are going to still bump into people that don't gel with you. You are going to bump into people that are probably going to go over your boundaries. You are going to bump into people that will try to take the mickey out of you. But every time it's just showing you where you need to grow and become better. So look at it in that way rather than any other way, because any other way is not going to help, and you will get there eventually. Anything else that you'd like to add?
No, that was amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening to this 2-part podcast. If you do have any questions, or if you have anything that you'd like us to cover in future podcasts,
Or if you have any stories you want to share with us,
yeah,
us
send
up.
them
We'd love to
our
hear
way,
them.
because we would love to address them too. But until then,
Ciao for now.
ciao for now.